What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jade, and this is the Here's What We Know podcast, episode 23. You never know what's going to happen on this show. All sorts of little crevices of society get uncovered. I'm joined by the master fact finder, Simon Anderson. How are you, mate?
Good evening, Jade Farrar. It's great to see you, mate. I'm feeling good this afternoon / evening. It's been a while. Obviously, life gets in the way of things sometimes, so glad to be back here with the time and space to give the people what they want.
And what's been the most what's been top of mind for you, I should say, right at the moment? What are you focusing on? What's exciting to you these days?
Personally, I mean, the only thing that I'm focusing on that's exciting to me is like um, going to the gym, going surfing, and playing some golf. Um, but in terms of what's important to me that I'm following, in the grand scheme of things out there, um, I don't know if anybody else is paying attention, but there's a whole lot of food storage or food processing plants catching on fire or getting destroyed in the United States in the last few months, and nobody's sort of following. And then there's also, the stock market and the crypto markets absolutely tanking and potentially could seem like not recovering. Um, so there's a lot of things out there that are destabilizing the world. So that's what I've got my finger on. So I mean the whole Ukraine thing, obviously that's there, but that's just nothing major is going to happen with that in the near future.
Did I hear that Sweden is gearing up to join NATO and all this other mess?
I did see something about that as well. Yes, that Sweden were making moves.
But
Neutral countries remaining no longer neutral, eh?
But anyway, that is the kind of stuff you can expect to experience here on the Here's What We Know podcast. I will say there is going to be quite a focus on COVID because we haven't talked about it for a little while. But before that, we do have format things here on the Here's What We Know podcast, and it is time now for the question of the day. Simon, are you ready?
Born ready, baby.
Okay, I like that. The question of the day is: how do you stay on the path of good? How do you stay on the path of good?
I love that question.
Yeah,
I've spent.
it's very on the nose.
Mm,
We won't go into this here, but you know what I mean, son.
mm. I mean, so the path of good, right? Or I mean, so when I'm talking about what I do to stay on the path of good, my understanding of the path of good, or I guess my frame of reference for taking on the world is that there's things like the Tao, which is a Buddhist philosophy, which is the way, and it's basically about aligning yourself with the universe, in the flow of the universe, and operating in a way that you are moving without any resistance. That's the path. And then um, in Muslim culture as well, they have the path as well. So when some of my Muslim friends have talked to me about the Quran, when they translate it into English, they talk about remaining on the path to Allah, to that Allah provides to heaven for them, basically. And so, yeah, for me, I use, I guess, my own conscience and judgment, if that makes sense. Like I, I for the longest time thought about, well, how do I hold myself to a higher value than myself? I wasn't attached to any religion
Mm.
growing up as a kid, and I didn't feel like joining any sort of religions later in life. So I was like, what do I hold myself to now, above myself? And so I decided, well, there's the 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 good path is to do no harm to yourself and like do no harm to others, if that makes sense. And it's about intent behind the action, and so I feel like if I try to keep myself on the good path by keeping myself to only act with good intentions, then then I'll know that I have kept myself on my own path. So I guess
That's really interesting. Can I ask a question?
Mm,
Because one of the things that brought this question about for me was the process of defining good. Because even if you have like super good intentions, like there can still be unintended consequences that have negative effects. Not always, but definitely sometimes. So
there's that
what's
saying
the
about it, right?
okay? Go.
Some of the great, what is it? Some of the greatest evils um, are completed in the name of good cause or just cause or something like that, you know. So people definitely believe they are just and righteous when they're doing
Yeah.
things that most people may not think they are that great. I'm sorry, but continue where you were going.
Yeah. No. No. Like, really happy to get your thoughts on that. So for me, how do I stay on the path of good? I suppose my answer is an anti answer, and before I give mine, I just want to acknowledge Doco420 in the chat. Thanks for being out today. Um, I try not to. I try not to do good or do bad. I just
Mm,
try to do almost like you were saying, the thing that causes the least friction, but still drives towards what I think I'm trying to achieve. And when I say think, you set on a path, you start making moves in a particular direction. But I think it's really important in life to actually be super agile. You might map out, oh, I'm going over here, and this is my trajectory, this is my career, this is the kind of like life I'm gonna build, personal life. It doesn't always work out, bro. So it's like, have that in mind. Try not to focus on good or bad, and just be open to changing would be my answer. The more agile you can be, the more likely it is that you're going to have more positive in the bank account than negative. Yeah, because you can steer away from things that aren't necessarily good.
yeah, I think for me, like when I'm yeah, well, what I guess I'm striving for is for all actions in your life to feel like when I guess I'm surfing on a wave at the best time. The best time I'm surfing on a wave is when I'm in a sort of autonomous subconscious like flow state, you know, where things happen with almost kind of naturally without putting too much thought in it. Or the same thing on the golf course where everything feels it's all slick and put together and you're not really having to think about it. Things are just happening. That, like you were saying, you know, you're not trying to always act good or act bad. You're just trying to act in the best interest of the situation. Yeah, just don't know how to express it any better than you put it, but I definitely agree that that's what I try to aim for as well.
One of the first podcasts we ever did before it was even branded this, you talked about emotions as AI,
Mm,
and I think I've still got the clip on the Facebook, like if you want to check that out. But I really latched onto that, and I've been obsessed with that ever since you said it. I think it was like 2 years ago when you first sort of came on here, and I was thinking, well, yeah, like treat everything like AI. Try something, bump into a wall, don't do that thing again, move on. Like, what's the issue with experiencing life? Like, you don't want to make too many what I would call mistakes. Like, you wouldn't want to commit crime. That'll get in the way of progress, definitely. Um, but it's all right to experience, and I think just my observation is people can be afraid to go off the path they've predefined. I don't know if you've experienced any of that, Simon.
Definitely. I mean, um, there is like a huge problem at the moment with everybody deferring their discovery to the experts. People have got this assumption that everything's been figured out, everything's been optimized, everything's been trialed and experimented, and the way is the way. But there is nothing that trumps your own individual experience in terms of finding out what is true, what is right in this world, and what is best for you. I mean, people are just deferring their whole life of human experience to the experts because they've said, oh, the return on investment on that isn't as efficient as this other thing. And yeah, it just I've never actually understood how people can try something, have a positive experience from it, and then be convinced that they're crazy or that it wasn't right because, oh no, somebody's told them that the science says something else. Like, say for example, people eat red meat and whole foods and they feel really great, and then people say, oh no, you can't eat red meat, it's bad for you. But that, for that individual person, they probably notice an absolute noticeable increase in their positive life experience because of the different foods they're eating. And that's all it takes, right? Like, I don't think you need to look and refer to studies if you try something and it provides a positive experience. Like, obviously correlation isn't causation, but for yourself it's a pretty strong inkling if you change a variable and positive impact happens to you. It's not placebo.
And in terms of advice, and this is very on the nose too, I always say to people, follow the money. So if you've got a government recommending 4 vaccinations in quick succession, follow the money. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Exactly.
And that's actually a really good segue, because I just wanted to have a little chat with you all about the fact, and I don't mind saying this, I'm really aware this will be on the internet and whatever, but I think it was 2.5 weeks ago now, the timing doesn't matter, but I actually contracted COVID, and this was discovered by rapid antigen test, and I'm actually really grateful, Simon, that we even have those, because there was a period in time in New Zealand where they were actually banned.
I know. Imports were stopped.
Yeah.
And then confiscated.
Yeah, and so did the rapid antigen test, came up positive. I was actually feeling really rough the day before, but I was just hopeful, like, other ailments do exist, and I'm not gonna immediately think COVID. I'm just gonna do the test because, I want to be informed if I need to isolate and everything. So I did that. Felt really rough. I had a really intense fever for the night that I tested positive, and it wasn't fun, but it wasn't unmanageable. And then the next morning, no fever, no runny nose, no respiratory, nothing, and I had a cough that might have come about every sort of 20 minutes. Like, it wasn't what I would call a persistent cough or one that I would worry about at all. And I just want to, you guys know that follow this stream, I'm not vaccinated. I haven't even had 1 dose. So I feel, my doctor gave me a ring because once you submit your rapid antigen, you go into this whole sort of framework of notification, Simon, and you're going to hand over your Bluetooth tokens and all the rest of it. And so I get a call from my GP, and they're like, oh my god, you're someone with health issues, you know, how you going? And I'm like, I feel fine. Like, you know, there's nothing to report. And I did say this on the phone, I actually feel 100% vindicated. I feel like the point has been made and I've won the case. You know what I mean? And also, I get this bit of paper now that says I'm allowed to interact with the sector that I'm involved in for 3 months.
Yeah, they've changed the Vax passes, the new ones, so that if you contract COVID, you'll then get a little emergency exemption for 3 months to continue to come out into the public. For
That's it.
the totally voluntary and not compulsory vaccine passes that we're renewing for another 6 months, but they're totally voluntary at the moment.
Yeah, and I've got that bit of paper. I'm staying consistent with sort of how I do work, but that's just me. I'm really used to it now. I don't really see the need to go in. That's just me. I like working from home, and they made me start doing it. It has become kind of a habit. But what do you think about that, Simon? Literally nothing. Like, not even a slight respiratory issue, apart from a cough every 20 minutes.
Well, first and foremost, obviously, Jade, I'm happy that you're in perfect health and you know fighting fit. That is the one thing that is most important, and this is that everybody's own health. So glad you're okay, mate, and that you managed to fight through the mighty spicy cough, to to get here to this day to say that you had COVID. But yeah, I mean, I am still yet to dance with the devil.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not avoiding it. I probably am at the point of, you know, trying to catch it just by way of exposing myself to places where there's a high likelihood that I might catch it, but I still have yet to catch it. And it's probably getting to the point where it's like the coldest part of the year and probably not the best time to get sick, but maybe that'll be a true test of the immune system catching it in, like, you know, deep July, August, winter.
Well, what I say here is not medical advice, but Simon, based on my own personal lived experience, I have every expectation that you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the work I do to keep myself healthy will do me right. But I mean, yeah, it it does make it very hard to justify the extreme lengths that the governments around the world have gone to contain this, and it also makes it really strange about the statistics that we're getting shown. Like, how is it possible that so many people have been able to die from this disease, but so many more people have been able to get it through it without any sort of symptom, without any sort of hospital care, without any sort of permanent damage? Um, but it just does not make sense that there's no patterns, right? You know, you would think that if a disease was a certain amount of deadly, that most people over a certain level of health issue would just be crossed off. But it seems that, you know, they've put up cases of perfectly healthy people succumbing to this disease, and you have people like Donald Trump, Queen Elizabeth, who are, you know, a strong breeze away from falling over, managed to get through COVID, you know, within a week. So why is there such a diverse range of experiences, right? Like, if we are to believe that this disease is so deadly, then why are there so many people above a certain threshold of sick and injured, you know, just performing way better than some healthy people that they've posted up as victims of COVID?
Yeah, I don't know, man. And I mean, just looking at the comments here from Doco420, trusting the experts clause again, how well do we know that the rapid antigen test is actually looking for the COVID strain? Interesting question. I can't
I mean,
speak
that's
to
the
that
other
at
thing.
all.
What if you never had it, right? But you can only take your assumption off the information you've got at hand, and you've got your own symptoms, and you've got the tests that they've created to test for it. And you were symptomatic when you took the test, right? So I mean,
Very, very.
that's when you get
Mm.
the most accurate, apparently, when you get the most accurate results from those thingies is when you are symptomatic. You know, if you're at the beginning of your sickness, there is a chance that it won't pick it up even if you have it.
Um, so there is my experience. I'm very I'm mixed about. I love the fact that I'm able to share, and a little bit mixed that I obviously caught it. Not the favorite thing in the world, but I've also heard, like you said, Simon, a range of things. But the from my experience, not medical advice, but from what I've heard, um, it seems to be worse for older people. So I have colleagues that I work with currently, and they are of a certain age, and yeah, I have heard a couple of examples of hospitalization. Obviously, I'm extremely worried for them. I don't want that to be the case. But these are also people that are triple vaccinated. So it's like, hmm, I don't know what to make of that at all.
Well, I mean, I, I don't I don't think any amount of vaccine is enough for some people to feel truly safe. Here's an example, right? So I was hanging out with a friend in the weekend yesterday who had two people in the house that had been testing positive all week. One person had finished their 7 days, but the other person hadn't retested since testing positive and was still symptomatic. And so I was hanging out with my friends, and one of my other friends comes over with his partner, and he comes in, and she stands at the door with the mask on, and then she finds out obviously that there's a potential chance that there might be COVID floating around the household, and she almost doesn't want to come inside the house. It took her a long time to get up the courage to come inside, wouldn't come near any of us, and then within 30 seconds had left the house because she couldn't handle being in that situation. Now, I'm sure we've all been following along with the science that says you need to be in prolonged close proximity contact with somebody to catch COVID, right? You know, we got rid of masks outside, and the fine dining rules when you go into a restaurant would tell you that you can actually be right next to somebody and not be in a risk of passing it to them, because otherwise we'd all be wearing masks inside like we had been. So I mean, it's just some people, right, fully vaccinated and taking all the precautions, just it's still not enough for them. And it's, it was a meme at the very start, that they'll never stop jabbing you, how many is enough? But some people are so absolutely frightened by this that there'll never be enough. As long as they keep saying, oh, actually, it doesn't give you complete protection, there's still a chance of you catching it. People are going to be terrified that they're going to drop dead.
So, last bit on this, and we'll get into your amazing discussion for today. I'm really looking forward to this, Simon. Um, first I'll go to the comments. So, Doco says, "Isn't the pandemic over? After what, 3 years of this? Aren't you bored of discussing the topic?" Short answer, yes. Long answer, it is still relevant though, and it is still top of mind for people. And I wish that Simon and I could just move on to the Great Reset and the 1% families of the world, but we're not quite there yet. COVID seems to be the front facing issue of the day. What's your take on being bored of this? Simon?
I'm bored of being told how I'm supposed to do my job. I'm bored of being considered an absolute risk to somebody's health, and being treated like a dirty petri dish of the fucking anthrax virus. That's what it feels like.
Mm.
I'm bored of that, like until people come to their senses and we get rid of the COVID theater, as the phrase is, being
Mm.
catching on at the moment. As soon as when that's gone, yeah, we can stop the conversation because I'd love to never talk about it again. But it's one of the biggest organized takeovers that's ever happened. There are organizations around the world. Governments are working with corporate organizations set up in the name of global peace and unity that are trying to enact their goal society on the whole world and giving people no chance at individual sovereignty and um, no sanctity over their own bodies and minds and where they live. I mean, like I'm bored of being living in and it's so cliche to say a matrix in a prison, but it's so true. Like I'm bored of dealing with sheep people every day that don't follow what's going on out there, have absolute trust in our politicians, and um, just maybe vote every 3 or 4 years, and it's just to tick the name that looks cool or whatever, and they don't put any thought in. I mean, yeah.
Do
Does
you?
that answer your question?
Yeah. Do you remember when the biggest issues on top for us was the assisted dying legislation and the like
The
legalization
referendum? Yeah.
legalization of weed? Like, I do miss those days.
Yeah, those were the days, right?
like
But I'm kind of glad we are where we are because it means that the exposure is kind of forced. There's going to be a point where all of the sort of corruption that's happening, um, at the top level will finally be exposed to everybody.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to have room to talk about the crypto market and the absolutely tanking stock market, but we're here. COVID is the forefront, and we're not algorithm chasers by any means. I don't know if you've seen our numbers, but they're not massive. So you can't accuse us of being algorithm chasers, but this is what we need to be talking about right at the moment. But I appreciate your question, Doco, as always. All questions are welcome.
Mm.
Simon, we got a big one on top, and when you sent this to me, I genuinely struggled to follow, black and slow and all that. So take us through this one, mate.
Alrighty. So this is a Twitter thread of some evidence provided by a group called ICanDecide.org, which is reporting on the trial documents that are released by Pfizer every so often. And so, as part of the trial data, they randomly assign a number to all of the testing sites um, in the Pfizer trials. And where am I? If you basically scroll down, keep going past all the pictures
That's really
of the
interesting. The logo stuff. You might want to
yeah.
touch on that.
Oh, I mean, I was just trying to get to the end of it, but yeah, I mean, um,
Do you want me to
the
go
this
right down?
there. So that's it there. So what it says there is that there is 1,270 clinical sites in the trials, right? And they're all numbered. Oh, it's 270. Sorry, numbered consecutively from 1,001 to 1,270. They're all listed there. You can look. And then the picture in that in this particular post is the end of the page. It says this is the last page. There is no site 1271. There is no other site with a number above 1270. But that's because there's a bit of a problem, right? And the next, if you go down, there is a site 4444. And it's got 1,275 patients. So 3% of the total patients in the Pfizer trial. And
Wow.
all of those, yeah, so that's quite a lot of patients. 3%, right? So there's 270 test locations. So more than, so they get less than 1% each on average. This one location had 3% of the total test patients. All recruited in 1 week from the 22nd to the 27th of September in 2020. And what is so important about that week is that week was just the last week that recruitment can take place for the data cutoff for the meeting with the FDA. So basically, what they did is and if you keep reading the post, it analyzes the data to show you what it is, because it actually duplicates another testing location. It's exactly the same. And they replicated the test data so they could get enough of the test data that they needed right before they went to show the FDA that their vaccine works to get emergency authorization, right? So, they never got their approval, they just got the emergency authorization. But there is so much wrong with the test data that they use. I mean, people should know about this, and it should worry them. Nobody did any testing on the vaccine besides Pfizer and the businesses that they contracted. And then the only other test data that we've ever had is obviously from the population once they started getting vaccinated. And that never really gets reported on properly. You get like the vaccine injury list that people self-report on, but that's never anywhere near the true reflection of it. And so what happened is, obviously, these trials took place that were so sketchy. You had whistleblowers saying that there were so many adverse events that they stopped recording them below a certain threshold. All sorts of weird things are happening in these test trials, and you can look it all up. But
Or
to
what about this one? 444 in Chinese translates to die die die. I don't know if that's we're not claiming that as verified. Oh man. So I'm not going to say that you're saying this, Simon, but it's possible that data used to achieve emergency authorization was fabricated. It's
yeah,
possible.
so at the because I wanted you to scroll past it, but a lot of the stuff at the top was about another testing site called which was
Oh, do you
one
want
two.
me to go back?
Oh, you can do, but yeah, so start from the top. So it was the biggest one by far, 1231. So site 1231 recruited 4,501 patients. So 10% of the patients at one site were from this one. 4,501 patients recruited in 3 weeks. So
Yep.
4,500 people recruited to be on a study in 3 weeks. And then if you keep going through the post, it basically talks about how the testing site, where is it, um, in Argentina, is actually run by the same doctor that then was um, was part of the people publishing papers to show here um, he was the lead author on a paper with Pfizer's scientists um, about the vaccine. So the thread basically points out that this individual was doing an inhuman amount of workload whilst also doing quite sketchy things, in that he's running one of the largest testing sites for the vaccine, and also he's the lead author on a scientific paper on the vaccine. So that kind of, it just, there's a million and one really interesting inconsistencies or weird things that line up, like the same person's name popping up in places that they shouldn't. And it's it's so frustrating that all of this stuff has to come out slowly in the way that it is. And um, it's probably too far past the point of recovering any of the damage that's been done. But I just wish that people would be holding these people to more of an account than they are. They're putting so much blind trust in these people that they're doing the right thing for them, and they are applauding the active censorship of contrasting opinion. And it, and that's the public that support these vaccines are publicly applauding the fact that there are people out there just censoring other forms of information out there because they don't even want to look at it. They
You
don't
know,
even want to. They don't want to even consider alternative opinions, and so they applaud when it's removed from their life.
exactly, and I was going to say, what I've seen, Simon, is you're actually discouraged from developing your own view. You're actually discouraged from pulling up information like this. Everything needs to be cross-referenced and verified, sure. But what's wrong with doing a bit of your own digging? Like people would actually say, Simon, that it's weird that you and me go out and find these independent sources.
Yeah, and it's like, what's the harm, right? Like, you go out there and you get validated, right? And you go, oh well, I wasted that time, but at least I know I'm right. Or you go and see search of other information, and it changes your viewpoint. Like, I'm sure you have just as little problem as I do with being wrong, right?
I'm all okay with being wrong in most situations. I can't think of many that would upset me. I'm okay. Like if they told me this was a simulation, I would have a lot of fun with that, and I'd be GTA boosting cars and all of that. So I'm sure you would be as well.
I'll be going straight to the military base, instant 4 stars.
Yeah, nice. Um, we've got a comment. Um, so Doco says I could look it up. The expert clause once again. Just because I read it and know about it doesn't mean I understand it. Something what fits my agenda will always seem to appear in a positive light. The media covers all options for each taste. My mindset has changed. Instead of worrying about tomorrow, um, instead of worrying about today, people are free to live in ignorance. That's their choice. Don't lose yourself in what be could be real or fake or corrupt, and enjoy what little experience you have.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree, I guess, in some way with the comment, but this might be different for other people, but this is certainly how it is for myself. It's just who I am as a person. I can't fully do what you said I should do without allocating some of my being to impacting the world in a positive way. And the easiest way I see that is by counteracting what I see as a global force trying to influence our society to act in their best interests and not allow people freedom of thought. So I do make sure I take the time to enjoy myself and my life, and I definitely keep the core of my being impenetrable from the shit that we talk about on this live stream. But I can't have that core person at the core of myself without having another part of me that goes, I care about what's going on out there, and I will do what I can to make a difference, whether it's through my action or through speaking out to what I think is worthwhile. And I wonder if you're the same, Jade.
I you know me well enough, Simon, that I do not accept what people tell tells me is true. Like, there are some universal laws, 1+1=2, kind of things, and you can take those. But where it comes to the concept of well-being, I think there is no one path to well-being. There is no one path to achieving whatever it is you want to do. Some people want to be alcoholic, for example, and that might be their version of well-being. I have learned about alcohol and alcoholism, and I choose not to do that. Some people see well-being as Simon, you're probably going to have to repeat your monologue there because Doco missed it and wanted to respond, but I'll just finish this. Some people like to eat in excess. That is their version of well-being. I don't do that. I've already got some health problems that could compound issues around that, so I don't do that. I could if I wanted, but I don't. And it's the same with how I view this issue. I look at what people say is available to me. I look at it and say, I don't want to do that. Do I view the vaccinations right at the moment as dangerous? Potentially. And I've always said that. I've been very consistent on the stream, and as long as there's even a slight potential, I'm gonna keep guessing on it. Yeah.
Yes, I definitely think they're dangerous.
Yep. So,
but should I recap what I said just before?
Yeah, Doco would love to respond, and we had an ad break. Sorry about that, Doco.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Poor timing. So what I said is I wholeheartedly agree with what you were saying in terms of making sure you control your life and so that you enjoy it with happiness and fulfillment. But and I said this is just for me, and it may be different for other people, and that's all cool. But part of me and just who I am means that if I'm to have a part of me that I can enjoy the things that I love and keep my life sweet and innocent and for myself, there needs to be a part of me that cares about what's going on out there and that stays involved with the global movements and does something to make the world a better place, whether it's with the actions I take or what I say on these podcasts or on my social media or just with people in real life. So part of me is devoted to that, and I enjoy it, right? Like I do enjoy doing that to some degree, and so that doing that allows me to have that part of me at a core that I have totally ring fenced off, built the 12-foot wall, that none of this bullshit that we talk about on the live stream will ever impact. So there is this core me that I'll always protect, and will never be disturbed by anything that I face. So yeah, that's what I said while there was ads.
and that's part of how you stay on the path to good, Simon, you could say. Question of the day.
Nice little segue back.
That is wonderful. Really interested in your views around that, Doco. But yeah, I think something you said, Simon, it just rocks me to my core. Society is based on the ability to make autonomous choices, and we're seeing a degradation of that. We're seeing a vilification of people that just maybe it's not even they're against it. Maybe they just want to wait a bit, until that 5-year data is available. At least in New Zealand, don't we have a 5-year until it can be like fully approved thing, Simon?
It was 2025, wasn't it?
Okay, so
Yeah, I
even
don't know if it
longer
was a
than.
five. I don't know if it was a 5 year thing or whatever, but I thought it was, well, 2023 or something like that was when it was getting um its approval. I don't know.
But you'd agree it's possible that some people are just waiting for that mid-save full review.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could be waiting for the the side effects to not and
Yeah.
the potential adverse events to stop happening. That might be something that you want to put as part of your risk assessment. Is the fact that there's people that are getting irreparable damage done to them or they're losing their lives
Mm.
because of it. So you might want to wait until they've got a version of it that doesn't do any of that nonsense, like some of the other vaccines you get um, that we've had in the past.
When yeah, I was thinking the other day about morphine, and I had surgery when I was really young, like 5 years old, due to my cerebral palsy, and I actually wasn't allowed morphine because of the negative effects it had on the body and the the fact that people could become very dependent on it very quickly. This was in the early like 90s. They have refined the formula around morphine a lot, where they can give it somewhat freely. I'm going to choose my words carefully. It's still a controlled substance. There's still a lot of risk of addiction and all the rest. But you can expect that once you stop taking it, you're not gonna have like these massive like withdrawal symptoms. For
Yeah, but
example.
it's quite funny that you're talking about morphine and the versions that they've had afterwards, like like OxyContin and all of those drugs.
Oxy is
But
just deadly. Yeah, no, it's yeah.
there's a book that I've read called Dope Sick, which basically talks about Purdue and the company that first started taking the poppy resin and changing opium into morphine, and how they used doctors as pill pushers and
Mm.
turned pretty much all of rural America into um, opioid addicted, ghettos, and they got away with it without anyone going to jail because they are a company and can just pay fines. And they didn't even pay all of the money. They basically managed to get a subsidiary to get bankrupted and pay the fines for them. Um, and it's the same pharmaceutical companies that are selling you this vaccine when they sold you um, all of your pain medication that got your whole family addicted and got your kids to overdose, right? It's the same pharmaceutical companies. Instead of a pill for your pain, it's a vaccine for a flu.
Yeah, possibly a bad example, but I was just reflecting on a personal experience. I had a
Mm,
surgery a couple of years ago. It was actually right before I started where you work at, Simon. I came in with a cast and everything.
mm.
Um, and I just remember waking up feeling super pain managed, like not even woozy or anything like that, just feeling really nice. And I remember them saying, "Oh no, you can't have morphine because this." Like, yeah, lots of good reasons why not to have it, but I think, yeah, my take on it is it's been refined over the years, and maybe that's what maybe that's what the vaccine needs. It just needs 20 years. I'll go to the comments, and then I've got a bit of marshmallow to give us a soft landing for the show this evening. But Doco says, wonderful. It's different for each of us. Yes, I'm happy that you reach out and let people see the bigger picture. Just don't frustrate yourself over people who want to stay in the Matrix. They aren't ready yet, and you're just as important.
Well put. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the nice words.
I have realized that some people are really keen to stay NPCs, Simon, and I think I know a couple of NPCs, and that's okay. Hey,
Everybody's got to know a couple NPCs, I guess.
and I have no judgment towards them. Lovely people that they just want to live how the program sets them to live and let that be that. I actually envy that to some degree. I sometimes wonder about the scope of understanding that I have, and is it a blessing or a torment sometimes?
Ignorance is bliss, as they say.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Doco. Loving the exchanges over the course of this episode this evening, but I did promise some marshmallow for us to land on, and actually, Simon, I do feel this is gonna have a little bit of relevance to the kind of things we talk about here on the show, but it is diverging a little bit from COVID. So, Simon, this couple in their 50s has figured out that they can sell their house, live on $62 a day, and live out the rest of their days on a cruise ship.
Really? Just going from cruise to cruise?
Cruise to cruise, they've figured out it's about 30,000 Australian dollars to permanently stay on the ship. They've figured out that they could quit work, so no further income. They could quit work, sell the house, be on the ship, and live out the rest of their days to around when they're likely to die.
That's a good plan. I wonder if they've taken into account, I guess, like the inflation that might happen, because you'd hate to see the price of the cruises going up every year, and you're thinking, oh, I'm in pretty good health still. I haven't got a spare hip.
But I brought this up because I was like, we are needing to find innovative solutions to the housing problem.
We already said park a cruise ship in Auckland Harbour already, didn't we?
Yeah.
I saw that in the newspaper, I'm sure, and they talked about that.
Weren't they thinking of that for like social housing, or am I really off base?
Or isolation or something. I can't remember.
Wow. And so, I looked at this, and it takes big balls to like sell your house and say, okay, that's our lot for the next conceivably 30-40 years. We're going to be on a ship of some sort. We've budgeted for sort of, this level of expenditure on passes, and this is what we do now. Isn't that so radical and so cool?
Sorry, I was actually just looking up the article. It was homeless people. They were looking to house homeless people in the cruise ships.
Jeez. That is rough.
Yeah, but probably was the first time any of them had sea views.
Does $62 Australian sound expensive or cheap in your opinion for a daily sort of expense rate? What does that say to you?
I mean, that gets you like buffet breakfast, buffet lunch, buffet dinners, free entertainment and accommodation. That is pretty good. If you split that out over, your meals, and that's pretty cheap. I probably spend more than that on a daily amount, easily.
Oh wow! Talk about lifestyle inflation there, Simon. But
Mm.
and I was what I took from the article though is, you know, why quit your jobs though? Why wouldn't you try to like work something out remotely? You could spend all your time on the stock market. Not that you would want to right at the moment, but you could actually do things. But the fact they've said, nah, this is our final amount of money. That's just so like, I want to say awesome, but I don't know if it is.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're probably just um, preparing to go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
Um, but you see lots of rich people talk about like, oh, ask them, well, if I had your money, I'd be sitting on a beach, drinking cocktails every day of my life. Why are you still working? I think a lot of these people get into that retirement mode. And I'm sure after a few months of sitting there by the pool listening to the same band playing, their music every day, you might get sick of what you thought was your paradise pretty quickly. Novelty
Yeah.
is a huge part of what makes going on holiday fun, I think.
And yeah, you know, there are things to consider. Like they now do not have a permanent home. You know, when the ship breaks down, you know, they're relying on the fact that there will just be another one to go to, or these things need servicing, don't they? I don't know how that works. I don't pretend to know, but there will be a point in time where that ship goes out of service for a period of time. You can't rely. I wouldn't have thought that you could just get on the next one because of how bookings work. And I, yeah, I think it's the one thing the Matrix has imprinted on me is that it's probably important to have a base of residence, and they no longer have one.
Yeah, it even just for your own personal like sanity, I think having a place of residence is better on a spiritual sense than it is on just a physical and mental sense. Like it's different to a human when there isn't a strong tether between them and some physical place, right? It's when you get a few people that kind of act a little bit crazy.
The like when I think about this, I'm like, I could not deal with seeing like randoms like every day, just more randoms. You'd start to feel even less connected to a community. Now I'm not a Simon, you know me. I'm not a particularly neighborly guy. Where I live, it's not necessarily set up for that vibe, but I see people around and they're familiar to me, and that can be grounding and that can be comforting. Even if you see them for like 2 seconds and you never talk to them the whole time they live in your building, you see them, it's grounding, it's comforting. If you're on a cruise ship, people are going to be rotating in and out every couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, unless there might be a few people that do a few monthly
Yeah,
stints
yeah,
or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, you get more friendly with the staff on the ship, which would just end up being really weird, you know.
And you'd run out of things to talk about. I think that would be a risk for me. You'd see them every day and you'd just be like, oh yeah, this is. But
Yeah.
Simon, with that all said and done, would you sell up? I know you're renting, flatting at the moment, but if
Mm.
you had a home, would you sell it up near the midterm of your life and go live on a cruise ship?
No, 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 that would not be for me. That would be like the worst idea possible. And if anything, you need to put all of your money into fortifying any sort of residence you have rather than getting rid of it.
And for me, I mean, I thought about it long and hard. Like obviously, like when I was preparing for the show today, I thought about it long and hard. Initially, I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's sell up and move on the cruise ship. But there are some features of the lifestyle that would wear thin with me really quickly, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it is literally like sitting there and waiting to die, because once you've done everything on the ship, there's going to be no new experience besides the people there, right? So if you ever felt like you needed a hit or something new, you'd have to strike up a conversation with a random, because
Not
you've
true.
played.
Not
Why?
true, because you get off at the different docking segments that they make.
True.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could go and do something different when you're on the land. But yeah, I mean, if you're spending most of your time on the cruise ship, after a certain point, it's like Groundhog Day, and that would I can't, like we were saying before, people are robbing themselves of human experience, deferring it to the experts.
Maybe that's part of their point. They're in retirement mode. They're saying, "Fuck it, we've done ours. We've made our money." To even think about retiring in early 50s is kind of cool. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If they've done this, then it's obviously appealing to them. So for them, they've achieved what they are considering close to an ideal life. They've got to a point financially where they can spend an unlimited amount of, all of their time on the cruise ship, which is something they probably like. So, and yeah, you can't hate on it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah, I really enjoyed bringing that story about. I thought it was very fascinating, and I look forward to tracking the innovations that come about in terms of people switching lifestyles and preparing for retirement. I think it's a interesting space to watch. Before we wrap this up, we do have a couple of comments. So Doco420 says, "If I have a life with no children, the cruise ship sounds nice. It must stop at places, ports. You'll have your favorite spots. Being stuck on a boat out at sea at all times, though, no thank you." Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
Yep, I guess I am kind of underselling the fact that you'd make multiple stops in pretty cool places around the world, and for some of them you'd be there for a few days, so you could go and do some pretty cool shit. So maybe it wouldn't be too bad.
And then Doco has a question I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer, but he says, if you live on a cruise ship, what would be your country of residence? I suppose passports is still a thing. Like when I read your question, I'd say, well, your passport is your country of residence, and that's what the cruise ship company would rely on. Like if you're American, you'd stay American. If you're Kiwi, you'd stay a Kiwi. You're just on a ship, and you'd have to do a lot of stamping along the way, and also being very mindful of your pages, because if all your pages have stamps on them. I recently learned this, Simon. If all your pages have stamps, even if it's like one on one page, whoever's reviewing your visa situation or whatever, they can take the view that it's full. I don't know how that works. Yeah, you must have free pages to be able to enter a country.
Yeah, it's pretty strict, I hear.
So, yep, thanks for giving me the time on that, Simon. But we are at the top of the hour, so how about some final thoughts?
Yep, final thoughts. Good to be here, back in front of the camera again after a bit of a break. It's been lovely to talk through some of the top issues, and just look forward to next time. There's a few other articles that have popped up since we've had the last one, so there's plenty of content, and I'm sure between now and the next one there'll be some more stupid shit that'll happen in the media that we'll have to talk about. So I look forward to seeing that. But thank you to everyone who tuned in.
I don't normally do this, sort of give a hint of next week, but I'm really keen to talk about Nadia Lim, Simon.
Oh, yes, the Asian fluff.
So let's have a look at that bit of racist drama going on in good old New Zealand. We can pick that up next week, but final thoughts from me is obviously really cool to be back on the show, Simon, after a bit of a break. I think it's really important for people to back themselves. I think we're often discouraged from doing that. We're more encouraged in taking on information from third parties, and I'm not just speaking about everything we're talking about here, but back yourselves in terms of whatever it is you want to achieve in life. You probably can do it. You have all the faculties about you right now that you need to achieve whatever it is. You just need to know the roadmap, and all that's about is finding people doing similar things that you want to do, connecting with them, and shortening the journey by learning from their lived experience. So that's my major encouragement for this week. Back yourself. Give yourself some pep as well, because you've actually achieved quite a lot, and I think that's undersold for a lot of people as well. You've still got quite far to go, but you've actually come a long way as well. So I'm going to stop rambling now. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. Please stay awesome. And Simon,
And we'll see you all in the next one. Wow.